In a barren land, where the sun seemed to scorch every inch of skin, a young girl was silently dragging her feet. Without a word of complaint, not a single sob, she just lifted her head. The first drop of sweat rolled down her cheek, then slowly fell onto the scorching ground, evaporating the moment it landed as if it had never existed. She looked up at the sky, where the sun was shining its dazzling light, then suddenly spoke. Her hand held a pocket watch. She bitterly called it a lie. Alicia's serious land. She was the only daughter born in the last 200 years to the Marquis land family, the lovely youngest daughter of a perfect family. Her existence was like a miracle, like a dreamy painting. She was a flower raised in a greenhouse. She had never stepped outside the gates of the Marquis, never known the outside world, only surrounded by bookshelves and locked doors. But that was just an illusion. In truth, she was an illegitimate child, born from a woman chosen from thousands of outside candidates. Despite being an illegitimate daughter, she was still recognized as the daughter of the Marchioness. Alicia grew up in the care of loyal maids, surviving like a parasite in a noble lineage, only because she still had political value. At the age of 17, she received her first order to marry. The intended was Gregory Baker, the young master of the Northern Count family. When they first met, he smiled courteously. "It is an honor to meet you, my lady." Alicia replied with the etiquette she had been taught. "I am Alicia from the Marquis land family." That was the day the two of them met. The true power of the capital and the true power of the North. The marriage between the two families seemed like it would be a perfect match. But then Gregory betrayed her when he was caught with another girl in an indefensible position. The sordid and angry man left Gregory forever in a wheelchair. The news quickly reached Alicia. The Land family then announced the annulment of the engagement, but the Parker family did not accept it. This annulment trial lasted for 8 years. When the trial concluded, Alicia was 25 years old, an age at which noble women were considered old and useless. At this time, she entered her father's study, where his gaze was like a cold blade piercing her heart. "He has chosen the next fiancé for you." The name that was uttered left her stunned. Grand Duke Jacob Tez-San. That name was the embodiment of blood and death. The Grand Duke of the West, lord of the deadly land of Tez-San. The Emperor's half-brother, a brutal man. The 6 Grand Duchesses before her had all died, one by one. The first Grand Duchess died mysteriously on her way to Tez-San after the wedding. The second Grand Duchess returned to her maternal home, unable to bear the harsh environment of Tez-San, but soon after died of an unknown illness. As for the next one, the third Grand Duchess, she fled to her parents' home for fear of death. But on her way back to Tez-San, under the Emperor's command, she died in an unexpected accident. The fourth Grand Duchess died from falling down the stairs. Next was the 5th Grand Duchess, who died of poisoning. And then came the 6th Grand Duchess. All of them had died from marrying Jacob Tez-San. Even though she never left the mansion, she knew of this rumor. So her father couldn't have been unaware. Yet he still coldly said, "You will marry him." One of her hands clenched her dress, the other clawed at her arm. She realized with pain that her father was telling her to go and die. Inside Alicia, a scream echoed. "I don't want to die. I don't want to get married." But it was all just a scream in her mind. "Do you have something to say?" Marquis Land asked, as if giving her one last chance. Alicia looked up at him. For a brief moment, she thought she was being heard. But her father's eyes, sharp and contemptuous, seemed to want to crush any will to resist. She bowed her head and replied, "Nothing, father." "Then go back to your room." Returning to her familiar room, Alicia stepped inside and closed the door. She looked at the weather outside and thought to herself, the sky was clear just a moment ago. Outside, dark clouds gathered. The rain poured down relentlessly, just like the storm in her heart. A few days later, Alicia sat before her vanity, letting the maid do her hair. Suddenly, the maid Daisy whispered softly, "My lady, please don't marry him." Alicia turned around, stunned. Daisy seemed to realize she had overstepped. She covered her mouth with her hand and bowed her head. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that." "It's all right," Alicia said gently. "Could you leave me alone for a moment?" After the maid withdrew, she quietly opened the betrothal gift box. Inside was an old pocket watch, bearing an ancient look like a royal relic. When she touched it, the minute hand of the watch glowed. A brilliant white light shone onto the ceiling. The space suddenly shook, and then everything went dark. Alicia fell into a pitch-black void, a strange, cold, silent place. Suddenly, something wet and thick fell on her cheek. Alicia raised her hand to touch it. It was saliva. A monster was standing behind her, its giant mouth wide open. By the time Alicia turned around, it was too late. A tear rolled down her face. She whispered, "This is a dream, right?" Blood stained the red earth, followed by her tattered corpse. January 1st, year 350 of the Benedict calendar. Alicia's serious land had fallen into hell. A strange light suddenly flashed. It shone down on the desolate ground. The ruined landscape appeared, revealing the ultimate end of destruction. No trace of humans, only ruins and silence. Alicia held her breath, hiding behind a large rock, her eyes fixed ahead. Every breath was heavy and tense. She bit her lip when she saw no movement. Only one thought remained in her mind. Now is the time. In the distance, the monsters were fast asleep. The swarm of hideous creatures had stopped after their hunting frenzy, leaving a suffocating silence. Alicia watched them, as if her life hung precariously on every breath. If she wanted to escape, it had to be now. Memories surged, pulling her back to the first day she fell into hell. The first time she faced that horrifying creature, she had died. That death had no tears, only flesh-tearing pain and wordless despair. Thinking about having died, she glanced at a dark corner of the ground. It was a human skull. She silently affirmed that it was more correct to say she used to die. How many skeletons were piled up in that mess? That was also her. And then, in the heart of the cold earth, she understood that she was imprisoned in the arms of death. An immortal who could not die. Her finger touched a small wound, just a slight paper cut. It took a whole week to heal. But when she was torn apart by a monster's claws, it only took a day for her to heal. The blood still flowed, a bright red blood like crushed grapes in a sacrifice. But her body recovered, as if mocking the pain itself. She recoiled in horror behind a rock. What have I become? Alicia's inner voice rang out. At first, she had cried and begged, pleaded with creatures that knew no mercy. Why? Why are you treating me like this? Fear quickly gave way to indignation. What did I do wrong? She screamed through her tears. The skull fell, rolling as if to mock her resentment. The bones moved, as if in sync with her pain, breaking into a trembling sound. Then one skeleton after another piled up. Then came rebellion, resistance, and finally, escape. She hid behind the rock, doubting herself. Can I escape? Negative thoughts arose in her mind. What if I get caught again? What if their fury is beyond imagination? Tears streamed down that beautiful face. Alicia bit her lip. I'm so scared. That whisper seemed to touch the cliff face in return, echoing in her mind. But then she stood up, encouraging herself. I can do this. Alicia started to run. She ran as if it were the last time in her life she could run. With ragged breaths, with a desolate heart. At a certain place, Alicia suddenly stopped. She stood still there, looking up. Above was light, the light of hope in her heart. Alicia's eyes widened, gazing at that magical light. She ignited a belief in herself. Good, just a little more. But hope is a cruel deceiver. As she got closer, a monster's claws reached out, dragging her back to hell. Her blood splattered across the ground. Alicia opened her eyes in the midst of the nightmare. She looked around in bewilderment. A pack of hungry young monsters surrounded her. One of them bit the hem of her dress, tearing it like a toy. Failed again. Alicia uttered silently, watching her body being torn into flesh and blood. She fell into an endless cycle. The tragedy repeated itself over and over. Alicia had failed to escape and became prey for the small monsters to practice on. Countless times the image of splattering blood and her screams replayed. Countless times the past Alicia was eaten alive, her bones left unfinished. Every choked sob, every death. Amidst the pain, she thought of her marriage. If I marry the Grand Duke, I still won't be able to die, right? The thought made her laugh maniacally. If he knew about this, the Grand Duke might even kneel and beg me to marry him. After all, this is his chance to get rid of the rumor that he kills his Grand Duchesses. Then she looked at the monsters. They're eating for a long time today, aren't they? She mumbled. She had long accepted her fate, but still lamented her situation, because she didn't like being in pain. Blood from her body still flowed, staining the ground and the rocks. Then a thought flashed, like the last spark in a dying breath. If you don't want to die anymore, then kill them. She began to laugh self-mockingly. If I don't want to die, I just have to kill them. After that, things became easier. Alicia stood strong and tall, looking at her past corpses. She picked up a hard, sharp piece of bone, and then she stabbed it into the monster's belly. Unlike her, who could recover infinitely, they could not. Their lives were limited. Alicia knew that. She knew this was a war she would win. She started with the weakest ones, then one by one, one by one, one by one. The monster roared in pain as the bone pierced its mouth. Alicia's once smooth hands were now rough. She gripped her weapon and charged forward. Her face was drenched in blood, her eyes determined, her mouth uttering coldly, "Die." And so the monster fell before its prey. The monster stopped attacking, it closed its eyes and died. After dying, the monster also disintegrated into dust and rock. She angrily threw the blood-stained bone down and panted, "Serves you right, you bastards." In a place like a collapsed mountain of rocks, Alicia was digging. She was searching for something, the first thing she hid when she woke up in this place. Finally, her hand touched the pocket watch. It was the only thing that helped Alicia know how much time had passed while in the monster's lair, where no light could penetrate. January 19th, year 350 of the Benedict calendar. What? So 20 days have passed. She turned her head, her eyes burning with hatred. Now she was more terrifying than any monster from hell. She kicked the old monster's corpse and screamed, "How many times? How many times have you killed me? No matter how many times you kill me, I will survive, you bastards." She put all her strength into a powerful kick against the rock, as if to vent all her pent-up anger. A golden light flashed from behind the broken piece of rock. It stunned Alicia. She bent down and picked up that strange stone. She wondered what it was. The gemstone emitted a soft light, sparkling like the late winter sun sleeping on a thin layer of snow. It lay nestled in Alicia's scratched palm. She held it up to the light, turning it between her long, slender fingers, her gaze intent as if seeing another world reflected in the stone. In those sparkling eyes, Alicia quietly wondered, "What is this?" Scene change. A gleaming golden diamond, exquisitely crafted into a cufflink on a high-end suit, something only the nobility could own. Its owner was standing silently by the window. At that moment, a subordinate entered and bowed respectfully. "Your Highness, I am Dawn. Come in," Rykard Tessin replied, his voice as even and cold as the late autumn wind. Dawn approached, holding a thick file. "I apologize for the disturbance, but there is an urgent matter to report." Rykard did not turn around, his eyes still following the scene outside. "I just saw a carriage with the Land family crest pass by." His voice deepened. "Is there another death?" Dawn was momentarily flustered. "No, not exactly. The young lady of Marquis Land has disappeared." Rykard's eyes swept over Dawn, and he scoffed. "Are you kidding? Disappeared?" He placed his hand on the window frame, his gaze as if lost in a dream. The carriage moved further away, leaving a cloud of dust behind. Whether she truly went missing or ran away from that marriage, her fate was likely still death. April 1st, year 358 of the Benedict calendar. Alicia, the young lady who was thought to be missing, was now in hell. She bravely threw her spear towards a giant that was roaring in the middle of the arid desert. Her eyes glinted with a deathly aura, piercing through the enemy's steel-like layers of skin. The spear plunged deep and blood erupted. Alicia pulled her weapon from the massive corpse, standing straight on the back of the monster that had just fallen. She pulled down the cloth covering her mouth and smiled brightly. "I have a good feeling about this time." She bent down and rummaged through the body. "Where are you hiding?" She mumbled softly. Hidden behind a nearby tree, a creature with long claws and sharp fangs was watching her with a cunning gaze. Alicia pulled out a handful of rose crystals from the corpse, examining them with delight. Just then, the stranger rushed out, intending to snatch the spoils. He leaped towards Alicia, raising his sharp-clawed hand to attack her, while Alicia was still busy admiring the rose crystals. The stranger slammed a fist into the ground, shattering the gravel. Alicia immediately jumped up over his head, narrowly dodging the attack. She said sternly, "Who are you?" The man froze, somewhat startled, but it was too late. Alicia grabbed the soft hair between his cat ears and pulled him closer. "How dare you touch my prey?" she growled, then delivered a knee straight to his face. The thief was sent flying several meters. His face was bruised, his eyes welling with tears. He screamed help. Alicia paused. The spear in her hand, by inertia, flew straight towards him. It plunged into the ground just a finger's breadth from his groin. The man immediately knelt and kowtowed, begging for his life. I didn't know you were so strong. I'll give you all my magic stones. Please spare me. Alicia looked at him, half angry, half amused. Do you know where this is? West Alex, he stammered. This place has a name? She wondered in surprise. In her mind, an image of her first days falling into hell appeared. Her tattered body looking up at the crimson sky. I only knew it was hell thanks to a passage in a book I read as a child. In her memory, an old church appeared under the sun, a red hue filled with shadows. The sky, there was a deep crimson. Through the cracks in the ground, black rocks were gradually revealed. The pages of the holy book were turned, every word still imprinted in her mind. Every time she breathed, the heat filled her body. Even as night fell, the air continued to heat up. Those were the lines from the religious book, Heaven and Hell of the Temple. She dropped the rose crystals, causing the petty thief to stare with wide, bewildered eyes. Alicia asked softly, "So what is this?" Her eyes sparkled as she looked at them, thinking to herself, a magical stone that makes me stronger when I eat it. Of course, it's a magic stone, he replied. This size is on par with a lord's. After saying that, he thought to himself, if I just had these, I could become stronger too. Alicia seemed to guess the monster's thoughts. She said generously, "Then they're yours." Really? He couldn't believe his ears. Yes. She smiled sweetly. But in return, you have to tell me a few things. The black crow on the wall flapped its wings and flew away as the door swung open. Magic stones are crystals of power, created from the concentration of mana. If Alicia wanted to get stronger magic stones, hunting the current monsters wasn't enough. The magic stones that appear in the bodies of these wild monsters are just a coincidence, because their amount of mana is also limited. But we, the intelligent magic races, are different. We control mana to accumulate power. Then we hunt each other, seizing power and becoming stronger and stronger. Therefore, the stronger the magic race members you hunt, the greater the power you obtain. Alicia's figure walked majestically through the Great Hall, along with the narration. East Noah, West Alex, South Pins, North Kaza. She stood before a door leading inside. Those were the 4 strongest lords in hell. The pattern on the door was carved with the image of an angel with a halo of light, looking down on the pathetic demons in the darkness. The door suddenly glowed, radiating a rainbow of light, and began to move. The 2 wings slowly opened to either side. A woman of noble demeanor was already seated on the throne, as if awaiting the arrival of the strange guest. She spoke in a low voice, "You've arrived, wanderer." Only the corner of her mouth was visible, curling up with every word she uttered. "Welcome to the castle of West Alex." Her voice continued to echo in the great hall. "I am the ruler of the western lands, and also the master of the castle of West Alex." Alicia said nothing. The spear in her hand flew straight towards the throne, plunging deep as the woman finished speaking. She gave a cold laugh. "I didn't ask who you were." The great hall fell into silence. The sound of Alicia's footsteps on the luxurious floor approached the throne. She looked at the crystal stone she had just acquired and remarked, "The size is decent, isn't it? As expected, I have to fight someone stronger." She tossed the stone up and crushed it, wondering indecisively, should I go east next time? Or maybe north? The ruby shattered into small ruby fragments. Alicia bent down to pick up a fragment. "Oh well, it doesn't matter which way I go. I still have plenty of time." Then the smile on her lips gradually faded. A black aura enveloped her. "Wait!" Alicia's scream cut through the darkness. Alicia woke with a start, her forehead drenched in sweat. She shot up from the soft bed, the expensive silk blanket falling to the floor. "Am I back?" she whispered. She rushed to the mirror. In the mirror was a younger Alicia, both familiar and strange. "What is this?" As Alicia gently caressed her face, her fingers gliding over the soft, young skin, she couldn't help but be surprised. This was clearly her face, but why was it so young? Could it be because of that lord's magic stone? She bent down, her hand reaching for her ankle, wincing slightly as she touched it. A sharp pain shot up her leg. It must be a sprain from the fall earlier, she thought. However, when Alicia's eyes fell upon her ankle, she suddenly froze, her eyes wide with horror. What was revealed beneath the thin dress was not like the body of an adult who had been through so many battles, but just the slender, fragile legs of a girl in her mid-teens. "No, it can't be," she uttered in a choked voice, her trembling hands touching her legs, then her small arms. What is happening? Where's my strength? The spear I used to hold with one hand. Now I can barely even hold a stick. The air in the room grew thick, as if a dark curtain was slowly descending upon Alicia's mind. She knelt on the floor in despair. It's all gone. The years of fighting, the pile of jewels collected from every magic stone. Now only this weak body remains. Just then, a gentle knock on the door echoed, pulling Alicia from her stream of memories. Lady Alicia, I am Daisy. A maid's soft voice came from outside. Alicia was startled and quickly rushed to the bed, pulling the covers over herself as if she were still resting. Come in. Daisy approached and bowed slightly. Good morning, my lady. Did you sleep well too, Daisy? Alicia replied awkwardly, her eyes still hazy. She stared at that familiar face, suddenly feeling that something was not right. Daisy, how old are you? Well, if you count, I just turned 22 this past autumn, she replied, looking a little confused. Is something wrong? Alicia was stunned. 22. Her limbs went weak. She staggered and fell onto the bed. Daisy panicked and shouted, Someone, Lady Alicia has fainted. In her delirium, Alicia gradually understood the cruel truth. She hadn't become younger. She had truly returned to the past, returned to the moment all the tragedies began. At 17 years old, the afternoon sun was setting, casting pale yellow streaks into the luxurious bedroom. Alicia lay quietly amidst the soft bedding, her face pale. A gentle hand was placed on her forehead. Alicia wearied. The woman's voice rang out, tinged with a little worry. The Marchioness Land, a woman of gentle beauty and kind eyes, helped her up and carefully brought a glass of water to her lips. Drink slowly. Be careful not to fill your stomach. Alicia looked up at the woman before her and said softly, Thank you, mother. The woman froze, her eyes shaken. Since when did this daughter know to call her that? In the grand hall of the mansion, the Marchioness strode quickly, ignoring the scrutinizing gazes of the servants. Is there any place in this house that I'm not allowed to enter? She questioned them coldly. They stammered. They didn't know how to answer her. Well, the butlers looked at each other worriedly. They weren't sure whether they should stop the Marchioness or not. The Marchioness is heading towards the south door. It's over. No matter how much of a philanderer the Marquis is, there has never been a problem with having an heir. Her steps led her to the south door, where she came across an unfamiliar little girl playing with her nanny. She asked in a heavy tone as the girl looked up at her, Are you Alicia? The child Alicia turned her head to look at her, a look of alarm sparkling in her eyes. The nanny stepped forward in a panic, about to explain, but the Marchioness had already sat down, smiling gently. Hello, I am your mother. Alicia was stunned. The nanny's old warnings echoed in her mind. What you have, my lady, does not belong to you, but you must be grateful for what you are given. But do not try to cross the line. She hid behind the nanny, her eyes wary, her face pale. The Marchioness did not get angry. She whispered gently, Are you surprised that I suddenly appeared? The Marchioness's voice was as warm as the summer sun. She soothed the child before her. It's true that I appeared suddenly, without warning, so I will leave. Alicia, just rest comfortably. Alicia hid behind the nanny, flustered and scared, not knowing what to do. She thought to herself, I can't believe I'm the daughter of someone so beautiful and gentle. She bit her hand lightly in embarrassment. I feel so guilty, but I don't know what to do. She remembered old memories with the lady, when she would call her name with joy and love. My very existence is proof of an affair, which makes me feel incredibly guilty. So much so that even though I know my mother truly loves me, the memories of the lady calling her name, her sweet voice full of affection, surfaced. Faced with those intimate words, she could only reply with a sense of inferiority. Yes, Marchioness. Alicia thought to herself, but I still can't change how I address her. She returned to the present, looking hesitantly at the glass of water in her hand. When I was in hell, I regretted it so much, mother. Alicia looked at the lady, who was still silent from hearing the word mother just now. She spoke up. May I have another glass of water, mother? The lady smiled gently at her daughter, her eyes full of love, asking, Are you very thirsty? I'll get it for you right away. The lady got a new glass of water for her, chattering away. Do you need anything besides water? I'll do anything for you, so just tell me. Daisy, eavesdropping from outside the room, thought to herself, I don't think the young lady stuttered at all just now. Daisy peeked in with curiosity, but the lady finally got to be called Mother. She smiled to herself and walked away down the grand hall. In just a single moment, how can a person change that much? It's like someone who just escaped the gates of death. The lady sat next to Alicia. She asked with concern, "Did you faint because your body was tired? Should I have someone bring you some herbal tea to drink?" She gently touched her mother's hand and said softly, "Mother." Alicia asked her directly, "My fiancé has been decided. It's Gregory Baker, right?" The lady paused, then asked in surprise, "Who told you that?" She took her daughter's hand, her eyes determined. "If you don't like Gregory, I won't let you marry him." Alicia guessed internally. So the engagement to Gregory Baker hasn't been officially established yet. If I refuse now, perhaps things can still be salvaged. So she spoke her mind. "Actually, I don't really like Gregory." As soon as the words left her mouth, she couldn't help but feel a flicker of doubt. Marriage in the noble world is just a cold contract between families. Can Mother really help me? The lady looked at her daughter, nodding decisively. "Leave that to me." She continued coldly, "I also really hate Gregory Baker." Alicia's eyes widened in surprise as she looked at her mother. "Really?" The lady sighed wearily. "Even though his appearance and personality are nothing alike, he reminds me of your father when he was young." She stood up and wrapped her arms around Alicia, hugging her. She comforted her gently. "So trust me, if you don't want to, I absolutely will not let anyone force you to marry." Alicia ran like the wind through the vast hall, the sound of her high heels echoing on the stone floor. The study door burst open. The man inside continued to write engrossed. He seemed completely undisturbed by her sudden appearance. "Let my mother go," she screamed. The man stopped writing and spoke coldly, barging into the head of the household study without informing the butler first. "What is this disrespectful behavior? Go back to your room." Alicia, serious Len. Alicia glared angrily. "Is that what you want to say after confining the lady of the house to her room, Marquis Vandermallen?" Vandermallen's brow furrowed slightly, his deep voice a warning. "Watch your words. There is no shortage of eyes and ears in this mansion. Your mother is just ill and needs to be treated for a while." Alicia's serious Len stood up straight, not bothering to hide her disgust. "This is just unbelievable." As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly slammed her hand on the desk. "It's not about recuperating at all. My mother was locked up simply because she opposed my engagement, wasn't she?" She lifted her head, looking straight into the eyes of the man sitting behind the dark wooden desk, questioning every word, confining the lady of the house to her room, and then worrying about outsiders hearing about it. "Is your dignity that important?" Vandermallen repeated coldly, "Stop it. I told you, there are many eyes and ears here." But Alicia didn't let his words extinguish the anger flaring in her chest. Her voice rang out, sharp and cold. "Eyes and ears? What eyes and ears? If one day the Marquis's daughter accidentally hits her noble fiancé in the head with a hammer, what would happen to that dignity then?" He gritted his teeth, his eyes wide with anger. "You dare." A heavy hand swung straight down at Alicia's face. "Are you threatening me?" Alicia's serious Len stood there motionless and asked, "Threatening? No, I'm trying to suppress the feeling of wanting to hit you." She tilted her head, her cold gaze fixed on him. Right now, Vandermallen froze. That look in her eyes startled him somewhat. Did she always have eyes like that? Then, Vandermallen frowned, recalling the past. Something was strange from the beginning. The daughter who was always so obedient, who didn't even dare to say a word of dislike. And now she comes to the study and glares at me? Her gaze was like that of a warrior who had been through countless storms in life. Suddenly, he was startled. What am I thinking? She used to tremble just from looking me in the eye. How could she change so easily? It must be a late puberty. Children are like that. In the end, Vandermallen waved his hand and ordered, "Go back to your room now. Disobeying the head of the household is a punishable offense. But because you're still young, I will forgive you this time. Go reflect on yourself and repent until you truly feel sorry." A while later, in another room. "So what?" Alicia said nonchalantly, causing the person opposite her to nearly choke on their water. Harry Steenland, the second son of the Marquis, sat across from her, his eyes wide with astonishment. "What did you just say?" After hearing her, she complained, "You're being too loud." She tilted her head and looked straight at Harry, slowly calling out, "Brother." Hearing her speak so calmly, Harry's voice suddenly went high. "You're not allowed to enter or leave the main residence anymore. And you're saying so what?" Suddenly he wondered. "You've offended the head of the household, and you're not worried or anything." Alicia replied without a care. "It's more comfortable not having to go to that old-fashioned place anyway." "But how is Mother?" "Mother has been let out of her room, but she's not allowed to go to the South Gate anymore after hearing the news about you. The eldest son, Felix Henry Land, tried to stop her from coming here." Hearing this, Alicia nodded, resting her chin on her hand. and remarking, "Big brother has had it tough too. Stopping her from coming here must not have been easy." Then Alicia's serious Lynn looked up and asked, "Is now the time for me to report my situation to Mother?" Hearing this, he commented, "The way you say that makes me think you came here because of Mother." Harry Monsteenland emphasized, "Alicia, I came here because I was worried about you." She froze, her lips pursing slightly, clearly not expecting that statement. A moment later, she asked again, her words like a blow to his body, "Were we ever that close?" Harry forced a smile. "You may not know it, but I really cherish my only little sister." Suddenly, she remarked, "This feels strange. I never thought you felt that way." Then she smiled lightly, like a spring breeze touching melting snow. "But it's not so bad, is it?" Harry Monsteenland blushed with embarrassment after uttering his words of concern. Seeing his expression, Alicia's serious Lynn suddenly became pensive. She was an illegitimate child with a timid and shy personality. She wouldn't have found it strange if she were hated, but to be cherished by someone, she had never dared to think of it. So her smile now carried a hint of nameless tenderness. "But it's not so bad, is it?" Harry smiled and wondered, "Why are you smiling?" Then he asked again, "How far has your engagement progressed?" Harry's eyes became serious for a moment. Everything between the two families was agreed upon a long time ago. Now we're just waiting for the royal family's approval and announcement. Alicia rubbed her chin, contemplating. "Royal approval, huh?" Seeing her deep in thought, Harry asked curiously, "You hate it that much?" Alicia looked up. "Do you remember my debut into high society?" Harry immediately nodded. "Of course I remember." Alicia recalled. "At the party, I slipped and fell right in the center and became a laughingstock for everyone. So after that, I locked myself in my room for a long time." At that time, although she was very embarrassed, Alicia's serious Lynn still had to encourage herself. "It's okay. I just need to get up carefully." Suddenly, someone couldn't help but laugh. This laughter made her face turn pale. She never forgot that face. Gregory Baker, the young master with the surname Gregory, the first one to burst out laughing when she was sprawled on the marble floor. Alicia turned her face away and continued speaking. "Gregory Baker was the first person to laugh at me. The only debutante party in my life ended like that." After hearing this, Harry clasped his hands and seriously suggested, "If I kill him now, will you feel better?" Alicia smiled as she opened the envelope. "Even though I know it's impossible, I'm still grateful for your sentiment. I didn't know about it at the time. I'm sorry." He continued to suggest, "If I can't kill him, a duel wouldn't be so bad. I just need to cripple one of his legs. That should be enough, right?" As soon as he finished, Alicia pushed the envelope towards him and said, "You should take this." Harry picked it up with a confused look. "What is this?" "Please deliver that to Grand Duke Tessin." Harry shot up from his chair and shouted, "What?" Then, Harry Monsteenland stared at the envelope with incomprehension. "Alicia, what are you thinking?" Meanwhile, she was earnestly pleading with him. "You have to act secretly and as quickly as possible. You'll help me, right?" Elsewhere, in the main office of the Grand Duke's residence, Duke Tessin sat up straight, coldly flicking the envelope on the table. The marriage negotiations between the royal family and the Chris family are top secret. Yet now a letter has appeared warning that my future fiancé has a weak constitution and that I should be careful. He looked at the two men standing beside him, Butler Henrik Lenz and Aide Roderick Rosa. "From where did this information leak?" Aide Roderick spoke up to report, "I only learned today that your highness was preparing for a marriage. Therefore, it's impossible for the rumor to have spread within the Grand Duke's residence." Duke Tessin nodded slightly, stroking his chin in thought. A moment later, he ordered, "Henrik, stay at the main headquarters. Roderick, prepare for a trip." Roderick's eyes widened. "Could it be that you intend to meet this girl named Sirius for real?" He placed his hand on the envelope, tapping a heavy rhythm. "It says in here, on the day autumn ends, at the seven-sided stone of the Dolo Temple. That's the meeting place." Then he ordered coldly, "Prepare a few men to accompany me." Roderick, somewhat worried, was about to say more, but Duke Tessin waved his hand. "Everyone out." The room fell silent. He picked up the letter, staring at the handwriting, so soft and elegant it annoyed him. He remarked softly, "The first marriage of my life, huh? Serious? Who on earth are you?" At the same time, at the old mansion of the Lynn family, Alicia's serious Lynn sat by the window, her gaze distant. "I wonder if the letter has arrived." The early morning sun pierced through the dense foliage of the forest, thin rays of light dancing on the roof of the dark-painted carriage as it rolled quietly forward. The quiet atmosphere was broken by Alicia's gentle question. "Daisy, how much further to the Dolo Temple?" The maid sitting opposite her bowed her head slightly and replied, "We're almost there." Alicia sighed softly, her voice tinged with weariness. Longer than I thought. Then she smiled with a hint of teasing. It's a good thing Mother lent me her carriage. If I had taken my old one, I would have fainted from motion sickness. Her eyes swept over the soft velvet interior, the exquisitely carved door frames, her eyes lighting up with delight. This is truly a carriage from the Abel house. It doesn't shake at all. But as if fate wanted to play a trick, just as the compliment ended, a sudden violent jolt made the entire carriage shudder. Alicia's eyes widened, her hands gripping the seat tightly. The piercing neighs of the horses echoed throughout the chaotic and panicked forest. Everything suddenly plunged into darkness. What's happening? My head just shook a little. Alicia remembered her time in hell. When she wanted to move, she just had to lie on the head of a giant lion. It was so comfortable. Remembering this, she held her dizzy head and wondered, I can't believe my 17-year-old self was this weak. Immediately after, she calmed herself down, her wary eyes glancing out the window. Robbers? But who would dare to openly attack the carriage of the Apel family? Daisy immediately stood up, intending to open the door to check. Alicia stopped her in a panic. No, Daisy, don't open the door. But it was too late. The door had just creaked open, and as Daisy turned her head back, a sharp object whistled through the air, embedding itself straight into her neck. Daisy fell into Alicia's arms. Daisy, Alicia screamed, holding her, her voice full of worry when she saw she was still breathing, but unconscious. Alicia quickly checked the wound. Her hand touched a small object stuck in her neck, a poison needle. She gently pulled it out and brought it to her nose to smell. The scent of cinnamon mixed with cedar filled her senses, a scent belonging to only one type of poison. Alicia looked at the needle in her hand and frowned, asking, why is it here? Musto. Just then, a deep voice sounded from behind. That is Musto. Alicia turned around, startled. At that moment, his guard approached, gently lifted Daisy, and said softly, she has only been anesthetized. Her life is not in danger. We cannot allow royal information to be leaked, so we had to resort to this measure. I hope the young lady understands. The Grand Duke, not giving her time to react, ordered, get out of the carriage, Lady Alicia. Or should I call you Sirius? Alicia looked up at him. The light filtering through the forest canopy shone on his hair, as golden as molten metal, and his skin so white it seemed it could dissolve into bone. His eyes were as cold as a frozen lake. People rumored that he had a fierce appearance, unlike someone of royal blood. But at this moment, she only found him to be endlessly handsome. He turned back to look at her frowning expression. Looking at her dress, he couldn't help but feel a flicker of doubt. Looking at her appearance, it's truly impossible to imagine that she wrote that letter. He said, Lady Loren of the Chris family has a congenital heart disease. She smiled gently and said, is that so? With such a frail body, she certainly couldn't endure the treacherous road to tests in. No one outside knows, except for those of the same bloodline and her close maids. How do you know? Alicia turned to ask him, are you curious, Your Highness? The Grand Duke stepped forward and offered his hand to invite her down. Alicia didn't take it, just shrugged and jumped down. But this isn't the meeting place from the letter. She continued with a bright smile. Anyway, we're almost there. A little more walking is fine. Let's go. Seeing that Alicia didn't bother to take his hand to be helped down, he clenched his fist in anger, thinking, I heard the young lady a marquis. Len is very shy. How strange. He coldly brushed past her. Can I decline that question? Then he looked straight into Alicia's eyes. But why did you ask to meet here? Alicia didn't shy away. Because I wanted to check something. The two walked forward side by side. Alicia slowly explained. The seven-tiered stone at Dolo is actually a sundial. From dawn to dusk is the time of this world, while the dark of night and the break of dawn are the time of the other world. She explained as she pictured it. That's why, as long as the sun is still shining, creatures that do not belong to the human world cannot set foot in this ruin. She glanced behind her. I wonder if Your Highness has ever been to this place. The Grand Duke replied, this is my first time, my lady. She quietly bowed her head, smiled, and after a moment of silence replied, it's my first time too. At that moment, the Grand Duke suddenly quickened his pace and strode ahead. Alicia stopped, slightly taken aback. He turned his head back and asked, aren't you coming? She just replied nonchalantly, you go on ahead. The Grand Duke frowned, then quietly turned his head and continued walking, a suspicion rising in his heart. What is she plotting? Did she set a trap in the ruins? But it was all a misunderstanding. She watched his retreating figure and thought in confusion, what if I can't get in? The Grand Duke didn't hesitate, walking straight inside, reassuring himself, if there's a trap, I'll just break it. Just then, Alicia called out, Your Highness is human. He turned to look at her and asked again, what? A strong wind suddenly blew, sweeping away the fallen dry leaves. The Grand Duke raised his hand to shield his eyes and heard her continue. Aren't you afraid? He looked straight at Alicia's face. She was still standing there, mentioning, what if you can't enter the ruins? What if you're not human? The Grand Duke was slightly taken aback. So, she also believes the rumor that I'm a demon. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's just a block of stone. Alicia scoffed. Your Highness is very brave. What if this ruin is real? Her hair was fluttering in the wind. If hell exists, then perhaps this sundial, which helps distinguish between humans and other creatures, is also real. Then she thought to herself, but if that's the case, would I, someone who fell into hell and returned to the past, be considered human? If not, Alicia slowly walked towards the Grand Duke. She lifted her dress, her pace quickening as she approached him. Suddenly, she said to him with a bright smile, I'm human too. Seeing this, the Grand Duke turned away, thinking to himself, this girl is truly strange. Alicia stood right in front of him, her voice gentle. Thank you for waiting for me. I have found my answer. At that moment, she suddenly realized the distance between them was too close. Alicia quickly stepped back, flustered and not daring to look the Grand Duke straight in the face. First, I should greet you properly, shouldn't I? She bowed her head respectfully. I am Sirius, the one who sent the letter to the Grand Duke. Then she lifted her face and said, Alicia Sirius Len. The Grand Duke slowly nodded. I know the young lady of Marquis Len. Then things will be simpler. Suddenly, Alicia knelt down. The Grand Duke's eyes widened in astonishment as he looked at her. She placed one hand on her chest, the other reaching out towards him. Grand Duke Jacob tests in, please marry me. At that moment, a thought echoed in the Grand Duke's mind. This woman is not just strange. His eyes darkened, his brow furrowed tightly. She's also crazy. However, surprise was quickly replaced by his usual coldness. He glanced at Alicia, his tone full of sarcasm and impatience. Do you think I came all this way just to hear you say such nonsense? The Duke made no effort to hide his annoyance, turning and walking away decisively. Then he let out a cold remark. What a waste of time. The Grand Duke's rejection did not discourage Alicia. She hurriedly ran after him, her voice earnest. Wait, you haven't heard my full proposal yet. But he didn't stop. I don't want to hear any more, he replied, each step taking him further away. Knowing that ordinary words couldn't hold back this man of iron, Alicia decided to play her trump card. She said loudly, deliberately trying to pique his curiosity, aren't you curious? Why I knew about the royal marriage. The Grand Duke still didn't stop, coldly letting out a remark. I'm not curious. Alicia was completely surprised by this reaction. In her heart, she was bewildered. He should be curious, shouldn't he? But then, Alicia saw the Grand Duke's face darken. A dark aura full of hatred and pain suddenly erupted from the Grand Duke. Sparks of purple and red magic erupted, enveloping him. It turned out the Grand Duke was suffering from a cyclical curse, and it would worsen when he was far from his own territory of Tessin. His eyes turned a brilliant, beast-like yellow. An invisible entity was enveloping him. Completely unaware of this intense pain, Alicia only saw that he was trembling and seemed to be in pain. She stepped forward worriedly. What's wrong, Grand Duke? But her concern was like water overflowing a dam. When the pain reached its peak, the Grand Duke lost all control. He screamed in agony, "Don't touch me." Along with the scream, he used a terrifying force to push Alicia far away. She fell sprawling on the ground, completely stunned. After the outburst, the Grand Duke also seemed exhausted. He clutched his head, gasping for breath, regaining a little of his sanity. The most surprising thing was not the Grand Duke's rage, but Alicia's reaction. Her eyes held no fear, only determination and a hint of worry. She stood up and walked straight towards the Grand Duke, who was immersed in pain and without a moment's hesitation, reached out and took his hand. I will help you to the carriage. The moment their skin touched, a miracle happened. The violent dark aura around the Grand Duke instantly vanished, replaced by a warm golden halo. The pain and the voices in his head suddenly fell silent. That voice has stopped. He realized with astonishment. Is it because of this girl? This was the first time in a long time that he had felt at peace. Alicia's presence, her touch, was the antidote to his curse. Realizing this, he unconsciously tightened his grip on her hand, not wanting to let go. Alicia still didn't understand what was happening, feeling his grip on her hand as a giant question mark appeared above her head. Then, the two of them sat down on a nearby stone bench, their hands still tightly clasped. The air around them was awkwardly silent. Alicia was the first to speak. Are we going to continue talking like this? He had calmed down, but his expression was as gloomy as if he had eaten a pile of dung. Yes, he said. That's the condition for continuing our conversation. Although Alicia was still confused, she quickly seized the opportunity. She immediately smiled brightly, scheming in her heart. This is the moment. She repeated her offer, but this time with a more attractive condition. Please marry me. If you agree, I will prophesize the future for you for times a year. But the Grand Duke was still skeptical. Nonsense. How can I truly believe in that prophecy? Alicia smiled confidently. Didn't you come here because the contents of the letter were completely accurate? The Grand Duke was silent. His silence was an admission. He had verified her ability, and it was real. He accepted the premise of the negotiation. So, who is the person you need me to get rid of for you? He asked, getting straight to the point. Alicia didn't hesitate to reveal the name Gregory Baker. Hearing this name, the Grand Duke became pensive. Although creating a conflict with the Parker family would cause considerable damage, this girl held the clue to the test's end curse. I myself must be the one to hold on to this deal. After thinking it over, he agreed to the proposal because he needed her more than anything. But the Grand Duke also set his own condition. But we cannot get married right now. Why? Alicia was surprised. Let's just get engaged. We don't necessarily have to get married. Just that is enough to deal with Baker. And I will treat you very well in your capacity as the Grand Duke's fiancée. This was a reasonable solution. An engagement to the Grand Duke carried enough weight to protect Alicia and stand against the Baker family. Alicia thought for a moment and then accepted, saying, just so you know. She warned with a mischievous smile. I'm the ambitious type. I'll keep that in mind. After the negotiation ended, Alicia smiled and suggested, so, can you let go of my hand now? The Grand Duke looked down at their tightly clasped hands. Then he slowly let go. Alicia said cheerfully, then I'll be in your care from now on, Grand Duke. I'm the one who should be asking for your help. A few days later, news of the engagement between Grand Duke Tessin and an unknown lady named Alicia Land shocked the entire kingdom, causing a stir among the public as they gossiped about this lucky girl. I heard she's a lady from the north. I've never heard that name before. It seems the Grand Duke is so infatuated he's lost his mind. But the most shocking thing was the betrothal gift the Grand Duke brought. It wasn't an ordinary wedding gift, but a colossal fortune. Juden Castle, the final work of the famous architect Bernardo. The Gelslien residence with a hall made of solid gold. A key military strategic point. And most terrifying of all, the entire Echeverria territory. Now, there was only one question on everyone's mind. Who is Alicia Land to be so incredibly lucky? Meanwhile, Alicia had changed from a splendid dress into a neat combat outfit consisting of a white shirt and trousers. She was standing in a training room, raising a hand to wipe her sweat, thinking to herself that no matter how much she trained, it was useless without magic. At this moment, the blue-haired man couldn't contain his shock at the news. He pointed at the newspaper and shouted, "What on earth is this newspaper talking about?" The newspaper he was reading had a large headline. Lady Alicia becomes the master of the Echeverria territory. Hearing this, Alicia turned and exclaimed, "The rumors have already spread to the north?" Then she snatched the newspaper and looked at it, flustered. They prepared this so thoroughly. But I'm a main character, so why is everyone only talking about the Grand Duke? But Henrik was speechless. Well, you're not exactly famous in high society. That's not important. You said you were going to the temple to pray. What is all this about? While her brother was still helpless over her admitting she lied. Alicia, on the other hand, seemed extremely interested in the actual content she was reading. Oh wow, someone discovers salt mine during excavation and is now calling for investments. Seeing his sister so focused on money, her brother couldn't take it anymore. He snatched the newspaper from her hand and shouted, "Stop reading that." Alicia pouted blankly. "Didn't you bring it for me to read?" Henrik could only sigh helplessly in his heart. How did my sister turn out like this? Their conversation was cut short by the appearance of a servant leading a magnificent white horse. The servant respectfully reported, "My lady, I have prepared it as you requested." Her brother asked in surprise, "A horse? You've never ridden a horse before." Alicia, with a radiant smile, paid no mind to his words. She immediately ran over. With a swift and decisive movement, she easily leaped onto the horse's back, not at all like someone who had never ridden before. Only then did she brightly answer his earlier question. I've learned before. Her brother could only mutter the word liar in utter helplessness. He couldn't understand this sister of his at all. Just then, a butler rushed over, calling out loudly, "Young master, you must go to the main residence right now." After listening to the butler's whisper, the brother turned to Alicia and said, "Alicia, I have to go now. I'll be right back, so don't cause any trouble." But Alicia just smiled and waved goodbye innocently. As soon as her brother was out of sight, the smile on Alicia's lips gradually changed, turning somewhat satisfied. She spurred the horse, which shot off like an arrow, heading straight into a forest. Here, her true self was revealed. She began an extremely rigorous physical training routine. Initially, she had intended to jump down 12 steps. If the maids hadn't caught her in time, her ankle would have probably broken, and she would be lying still in her room now. Although she still remembered how to control her body, no matter how much she tried to move or train, the limits were clearly still there. She performed skillful parkour moves, running on tree trunks, jumping, landing, and then sprinting to grab onto a high branch. She was a seasoned warrior trapped in a weak body. Her frustration peaked as she tried to grab a branch to climb higher. The branch suddenly broke, and she lost her balance and fell to the ground. In the moment of falling, two words flashed in her mind. Magic stone. Alicia lay sprawled on the ground, tired and dejected. Her thoughts were filled with helplessness. As I thought, it's no use. I can't obtain power like a magic stone through effort alone. This was her ultimate goal, the reason for all her strange actions from the very beginning. She needed the magic stone to regain her lost power, something that mere physical training could not provide. Just as Alicia was sinking into helplessness, a strange voice rang out. In a Lin family, is everyone trained like this? The owner of the voice was the Grand Duke. He had witnessed Alicia's entire training session and was very curious. Caught off guard, Alicia was startled, stumbled, and fell, stammering in astonishment. Grand Duke. The Grand Duke explained he was here for the investiture ceremony, then gallantly offered his hand to help her up. Alicia flusteredly accepted his help. As she was pulled up, her eyes accidentally glanced at the cufflink on his sleeve. That is, she thought in silent amazement. The Grand Duke, seeing her staring, asked what she was doing. Alicia hastily replied, I was just exercising. He looked at her with a skeptical gaze, remarking, this kind of excessive training would be very effective if applied to a knight, but for a lady, it's just overexertion. He clearly didn't believe her explanation. Then he noticed a leaf stuck in her hair and sighed. Well, first, you should take the leaf off your head. Seeing Alicia fumbling to remove the leaf without success, the Grand Duke gently reached towards her hair and softly removed the leaf. That moment of close contact made Alicia a little flustered. And then an unexpected action occurred. Right after the Grand Duke removed the leaf, Alicia suddenly moved closer and fell into his arms. The Grand Duke, startled, called her name Lady Alicia. Alicia, but this was not a real fall. It was a deliberate one. While the Grand Duke was worried that pushing her away would injure her, Alicia's hand had quickly clasped his wrist, right near the cufflink. Her soft voice rang out, "Please give me the cufflink." A satisfied smile appeared on her lips. She thought to herself, this must be a magic stone. The brilliant yellow gemstone, emitting a sparkling light, was embedded in the Grand Duke's cufflink. This was what Alicia had been searching for, the key to regaining her power as a warrior from hell. However, the blonde-haired Grand Duke, in whose arms she was lying, was not enchanted at all. He lay on his back on the ground, his expression strangely calm. His thoughts echoed, I knew it. Then he pulled his hand away, his voice cold. Too bad. This is an item passed down to the Duke of Tessin, so it's a bit difficult. Hearing that she couldn't have it, the little demon in Alicia's heart immediately appeared, whispering and urging her to steal the stone. Before she could act, the Grand Duke blushed with embarrassment, turned his face to the side, and spoke. First, please get off of me. Realizing they were in an embarrassing position, Alicia quickly jumped up, laughing awkwardly and apologizing. The Grand Duke dusted off his clothes and stood up, reaffirming once more, I cannot give it to you. But before Alicia could be disappointed, he made a surprising offer. But there are some similarly valuable things in Tessin, so I'll try to find one. I'll send you a gift next time. Alicia's eyes lit up as she exclaimed with joy. Really? The Grand Duke held out his hand and said, I can't promise I'll find it. But she didn't care. Her goal wasn't the cufflink itself, but information about the source of these magic stones. The brief exchange helped Alicia confirm a crucial piece of information. Magic stones appeared in Tessin. She immediately seized the opportunity and cheerfully suggested, let's go together. Grand Duke. On the way back to the residence, Alicia began to implement her next plan. She needed to prove her worth, to transform the relationship from that of a beggar to an equal partner. She said with a smile, "Should I repay the gift you're going to give me?" And her return gift was a piece of information that could change the fate of an entire territory. She turned to the Grand Duke and said mysteriously, "This winter, it will not snow." The Grand Duke looked at her, slightly astonished. Alicia continued her prophecy with absolute confidence. Instead, heavy snow will fall from the last week of March to early April. If heavy snow suddenly falls in March and April, many people in the territory could die. Therefore, you must prepare countermeasures. This was no longer empty talk, but a strategic warning. She finished with a gentle smile. "This time, it's my gift to you as a thank you, so I won't subtract it from the number of prophecies." The Grand Duke paused. He looked deeply into Alicia's purple eyes. This confident expression meant she was telling the truth. He was not a naive man. He recognized the seriousness and certainty in her every word. "I haven't given you the gemstone yet, but you've already given me this prophecy. So thank you. Thanks to you, the damage to my territory will be reduced." Alicia smiled in return. "I hope I can be of help to your highness." She had successfully transformed herself from a peculiar lady into a valuable advisor in the eyes of the powerful Grand Duke. When they both returned, a crowd of servants and knights had gathered in the hall, including Alicia's close maid, Daisy. At that moment, an aide approached and respectfully handed Tessin a box he had requested earlier. Then he turned and whispered in her ear, "Lady Alicia, I want to give you something." Before she could answer, a butler spoke up, saying that Marquis Felix was waiting in the reception room of the main residence. Only then did Alicia realize that upon his arrival, he had come straight to the annex to see her. Seeing the intimacy between the two, the butler broke out in a cold sweat, astonished. So the rumors were true. Then the Grand Duke ordered everyone to leave to give them some private space. When only the two of them were left, the Grand Duke said, "Now, it's my turn." He opened a luxurious brocade box. Inside was a stunning ruby jewelry set, including a necklace and a pair of earrings that radiated a brilliant light. Alicia was completely overwhelmed. She stammered, "Is this a gift for me?" The Grand Duke explained, "Because Duchess Margaret's ruby jewelry set has always gone with the title of Countess of Echeverria. Now you're the Countess of Echeverria, so you can wear it when necessary." This gift not only held immense material value, but it was also a symbol of recognition, an unofficial induction of Alicia into his Echeverria family. Alicia was still flustered by this recognition. Noticing this, the Grand Duke smiled, thinking to himself that she had a rather cute side. He decided to test her one more time and pose a question. "How much do you currently know about the royal family?" Without a moment's hesitation, Alicia began to list information about the royal family members fluently, demonstrating her understanding of politics. "I know the former emperor had a total of 5 princes and 1 princess, including the current emperor. The second prince, Duke Base, passed away from a plague 7 years ago. The third prince is Marquis Lennox. The fourth prince is Count Stephen. And the fifth prince is you, Grand Duke Tessin. The last one is Princess Louis, your half-sister." The Grand Duke seemed quite pleased with this answer. Alicia humbly explained, "It may not look like it, but my hobby is reading books." He then offered to send a royal tutor to teach her the remaining knowledge, while also telling her to keep that strange physical exercise of hers hidden to avoid dying for nothing one day. The meeting ended, and it was time for the Grand Duke to leave. They also arranged to meet again at the investiture ceremony. But before leaving, he suddenly leaned down and whispered something in Alicia's ear. Alicia was stunned. "Is that true? I saw it with my own eyes, so I'm very sure." After saying that, he mounted his horse and left, leaving behind the words, "I hope this will be helpful to you." Alicia watched his figure depart. She realized this Grand Duke was deeper and kinder than she had thought. But her thoughts were quickly broken by the crowd of servants gathering around, whispering and gossiping about her relationship with the Grand Duke. This annoyance irritated Alicia. These people didn't dare to utter a word in front of the Grand Duke, but now she couldn't stand it anymore and shouted, "Everyone get out, except for Daisy." When the room became quiet again, with only her and her loyal maid Daisy left, Alicia made a bold decision. She said to Daisy with determination, prepare for departure. We are going to the Echeverria territory. Alicia recalled the news the Grand Duke had revealed before leaving, that Marquis Land would not be able to return to the domain for a while, because he had dared to defy the Emperor's order to annul the engagement with Gregory. For this insubordination, he was forced to stay in the capital for some time. Knowing this, Alicia realized this was a golden opportunity if she wanted to do something. With the invisible backing of the Grand Duke and the absence of her father, Alicia was ready for a journey. Her goal was clear. First, I have to leave this territory. The scene changes to a luxurious carriage of the Lin family that has just stopped at the gate. A furious roar echoed throughout the residence. Open the gate. Meanwhile, in the main hall, the three remaining family members, stepmother Marine, the eldest brother, and the second brother, were standing there. Henrik, hearing the news, rushed down in a panic. Father's back? Stepmother Marine, a beautiful woman with light moss-green hair, said gently. Henrik, come down slowly. None of the three knew what had made the Marquis so angry. While they were discussing, Henrik realized, Alicia isn't here. Just then, the main door of the residence was kicked open. Marquis Lin stormed in, his face full of anger. He roared, Alicia. Alicia, come out here now. His wrath enveloped the entire hall. He searched everywhere, but couldn't find a trace of his daughter. Alicia's absence only made him more furious. The Marquis immediately stopped a servant and demanded, Where's Alicia's room? After being given directions, he didn't hesitate for a moment. He shoved the servant aside and rushed straight to his daughter's room, then threw open the door and roared her full name in a fit of rage. Alicia Serious Land. But the room was completely empty. Alicia had disappeared. Marquis Lin stood in the middle of the hall, his anger still not subsided. He growled, The Marquis's daughter suddenly disappears, and yet no one knows where she is. Don't you find that ridiculous? At that moment, a gentle voice came from behind the eldest brother. She has gone to Echeverria. This statement was like a bucket of cold water thrown on the Marquis. He spun around, unable to believe his ears. The crowd parted on both sides, revealing the small figure of Lady Marine. She was not afraid of her husband's angry face, but smiled brightly and said clearly, Alicia said that she has gone to Echeverria. A moment later, the Marquis had calmed down and sat down with his wife, demanding an explanation. What on earth is going on? She left a letter. It seems that because she was given the territory and title, she wanted to go see the territory for herself. This explanation only made the Marquis angrier. He turned to scold his wife. If she says such ridiculous things, you should have stopped her. To his anger, Lady Marine, with a sarcastic smile, replied with a piercing remark. How could I do that? How can I stop her when I'm not even allowed to go to the south gate? Her words were like a knife stabbing straight into the Marquis. He was stunned and called her name in helplessness, Marine. Marine continued to smile and say, I'm just telling the truth. Why are you acting like this? After a moment of silence, she spoke up. This is the first time she has expressed something she dislikes. Not even once in 17 years. As she spoke, she recalled the letter Alicia had left. She called me mother and relied on me. Marine looked straight at her husband, her voice softening. So please, stop here. Stop raising your children to be tools. But Marquis Lin, a patriarchal and tyrannical man, could not accept this truth. He spoke coldly. Once born into the family, dedicating oneself to the family is the duty of a noble. To him, children were just pawns to serve the family's interests. He declared, I will send people to Echeverria to bring Alicia back. And he added, when she returns, the lady can freely enter the south gate. Watching the Marquis leave, she sighed and thought to herself, this should have bought enough time. I wonder if Alicia has arrived by now. The scene changes to a splendid and magnificent mansion. Alicia had now arrived, wearing a beautiful pink evening gown. The large doors opened, and a long line of servants bowed to welcome her. A middle-aged woman in a high-class butler's uniform stepped forward. She introduced herself. I am Petunia Rokas, the one who will guide the young lady in learning royal etiquette and adapting to life in the royal palace. She was the person the Grand Duke had sent. Alicia, though a little surprised by the warm welcome, maintained the demeanor of a polite lady. Thank you. Rokas explained that the Grand Duke had informed them of her trip in advance, so it was what they should do. She also introduced a personal maid for Alicia, a pink-haired girl named Annie. The thoughtfulness and enthusiasm of the people here warmed Alicia's heart. They had redecorated the entire mansion so she could rest comfortably here and had also prepared a luxurious bedroom for the future mistress. Alicia really liked the room, and that made the maid Annie extremely happy. After everyone had left, only Alicia and the loyal maid who had accompanied her here remained. Daisy, still bewildered, asked, "My lady, aren't we going to Echeverria? This is the capital." It turned out her destination was not the remote Echeverria territory, but the empire's center of power. She explained to Daisy, "The investiture ceremony is coming up soon. What would we do in Echeverria?" Her eyes sparkled with excitement. "Daisy, let's go shopping. Since we've come all the way to the capital, let's just go have some fun." They arrived at a high-end perfume shop where countless exquisite perfume bottles were displayed. Alicia thought to herself, just as the rumors say, all these perfumes are quite unpleasant. Even though they're expensive, if it were the old me, I would never have been able to imagine this. I can't believe I've come all the way to the capital, and I'm even visiting a perfume workshop. Usually, I'd be cooped up in the library reading. While she was hesitating, a scent suddenly caught her attention. A shop assistant introduced it and handed her a test strip. Just as Alicia was smelling the scent on the paper, a voice suddenly rang out. "Do you like this scent?" A beautiful woman with fiery red hair and captivating green eyes approached. She introduced herself. "I am Katina, the perfumer of Io." Alicia immediately recognized this woman. In her mind, important information about Katina surfaced. Katina, the genius perfumer from the Western continent. This is the person who will create the Vel series perfume line, a perfume that will shake the entire empire and cause a craze across the continent in the future. This woman will lead the trends in high society. Alicia understood that befriending Katina now was an investment opportunity that could not be missed. She politely replied, "This scent is very pure. Because this scent changes according to each person's body odor. It's like a unique perfume, exclusive to oneself. Very special." This comment made Katina extremely surprised and delighted. She never expected to meet someone who could perceive her work so deeply. Alicia also expressed her admiration. "I'm also very happy to meet such a talented perfumer as you." After the friendly greeting, Alicia decided to act. "Then I'll buy this bottle of perfume." But that wasn't all. She looked straight at Katina and made a bold proposal. "And I would like to sample the perfumes you create at my residence next time." This proposal stunned Katina. The old insults flashed through her mind. "You're just a stranger from the Western continent. You do have guts, but your background is still as lowly as ever. A lowly merchant like you dares to oppose me." "Me?" These words were quickly dispelled by Alicia's respectful voice. "May I invite you over?" These words made Katina feel respected. She happily agreed. "It would be my honor." On the way out of the store, Daisy wondered, "I don't know how you have such extensive knowledge of scents, my lady." Alicia gave a wry smile. "I don't know either." She thought to herself, "Because I know she'll be successful in the future, I want to pretend I know everything." Outwardly, Alicia explained that she had studied hard so as not to be looked down upon in the capital. She even asked brightly, "But it was convincing, wasn't it?" Daisy exclaimed, "You look just like someone who lives here, my lady." Alicia was pleased with this misunderstanding. She urged Daisy to hurry. "We still have many more places to see." And the shopping storm began. Alicia was like a whirlwind, sweeping through the most luxurious shops in the capital. From clothes and jewelry to accessories, she didn't hesitate. "Great, I'll take it. I'll take it." Anything she pointed at was bought immediately. She declared with authority, "From here to here, I'll buy everything." This action left Daisy, the poor maid, nearly exhausted. She had to carry countless bags, her face haggard, while the shop owners bowed and thanked them profusely. After sweeping through the shops, Alicia announced, "This is the last stop." They arrived at a shoemaking shop that was also an embroidery workshop. Alicia didn't come to buy shoes. Her purpose was someone else. She asked the shop owner, "I came here to place an embroidery order." The shop owner called a girl named Judith down from upstairs. A young girl with short platinum blonde hair and light purple eyes came down. She introduced herself shyly. "I am Judith Burnman. You could just call me Judith. I haven't had much education, so I don't know how to greet you properly." Alicia looked at the girl before her and asked, "I heard you are very good at embroidery. It seems you also take private commissions, right?" Hearing this, Judith became shy at her compliment. Alicia signaled to Daisy, and Daisy took out a scroll. "I've brought the design. Could you take a look?" Judith unrolled the scroll to look at it, and while she was concentrating, Alicia signals for Daisy to step back. This is when Alicia's real plan unfolds. Judith, after looking at the design, looks up at Alicia with a completely different gaze. Her initially timid eyes are now sharp and full of vigilance. Alicia speaks up. Only I know about this, so don't worry. I've been beating around the bush a lot just to avoid being discovered. Being here is the destination. Judith no longer maintains the facade of a naive embroiderer. She takes out a pair of scissors from her sleeve, hiding them behind her back. She calmly asks a loaded question. Who is the most famous person in the capital right now? I wonder. And then, without any warning, Judith lunges forward, attacking Alicia with the scissors. But she is no ordinary lady, but a warrior from hell. Her reflexes are extremely fast. She uses an ordinary fan to block the tip of Judith's scissors. As Alicia attacks, she reveals the girl's true identity, the sole heir of Crush Cellar Inn, the massive intelligence organization, Judith Burnman. After the fight ends, Judith looks at Alicia, her heart filled with astonishment. She cannot understand why a noble lady possesses such terrifying strength and combat skills. When Alicia achieves her goal, her aura completely changes, becoming friendly and sincere. She looks directly at Judith and says, I just want to be your friend. Crush Cellar Inn is a secret organization led by 6 people, including the head known as the Master. But 8 years ago, a great fire burned down 6 farms and shops near the capital at the same time. The event was so large that it was reported in the newspapers, but the truth behind it was perfectly concealed. The 6 families attacked that day were the 6 people who once led Grass Cellarin. The fire was not an accident, but a deliberate purge targeting the leaders of this mysterious organization. Judith's memories become vivid and painful. The young Judith of 8 years ago is being dragged away from a sea of fire by a man. She wails in despair, struggling. Let me go. My mother and father are in there. Let me down, please. The little girl wants to go back to save her parents, but the man holds her tight. He says through tears, it's too late. At least you have to live. You have to live so you can do something. But all efforts are in vain. A massive explosion occurs, engulfing everything in a sea of fire. Everything is burned to ashes. No one could have survived. And Judith is the sole survivor, carrying the burden of the past. Back in the present, the haunting memory makes Judith scream, stop. She grabs the fruit knife from the table and points it at Alicia. Go away, Judith says in a trembling voice. To her, her crush no longer exists. It was destroyed along with her family. Alicia faces Judith's knife without showing any fear. She looks directly into Judith's eyes that if you keep running away like this, it will truly disappear. Alicia's words are like a sharp blade, piercing straight into Judith's greatest fear. Judith furiously screams, what do you know? Alicia replies calmly, I do know. The one who betrayed my crush. This statement strikes Judith like a lightning bolt. She stammers, what did you say? Alicia repeats, emphasizing each word while using her fan to push the knife aside, that I know who betrayed my crush. She looks directly at Judith and makes a firm promise. Judith, I will help you get revenge. Judith, still skeptical, asks, why would you help me? Alicia gives a sincere smile, repeating her initial offer, I already told you. I want to be your friend. If possible, I want us to help each other. And then Alicia reveals an even more terrible secret. Although Crush Cellar Inn is outwardly led by 6 people, there's another group of 6 that only the Master knows about. A group called Crush Hexagon CLN. And the most shocking truth is that the 6 leaders, that list, are the ones who betrayed Crush CLN. Alicia doesn't give Judith time to doubt. She continues, whether what I'm saying is true or not, you can verify it yourself. Aren't you the one who will become the Master? And it's best you clean it up as soon as possible. Otherwise, you'll really die before you could do anything. Judith frowns. You mean this place has been discovered? That's for you to find out. I hope my embroidery order will be completed before spring. Before leaving, Alicia Friendly leaves a message. If you need anything, just contact the Rudin residence. Judith hasn't even had a chance to ask, but the person has already disappeared, leaving her bewildered. Yes, she crazy. But Alicia's words have planted a seed of doubt and a glimmer of hope for revenge in her heart. After Alicia leaves, the twin girls, Flora and Agnes, who are hiding in the closet, come out. Judith, despite her heavy heart, tries to smile at them. She calls the 2 children over and gives them tasks. Flora, go call Uncle for me. Agnes, let's prepare for a trip. She has made her decision. She will not run anymore. At this, young Agnes seems hesitant to leave. Seeing this, Judith kneels down and hugs the little girl reassuringly. You 2 have been through a lot because of me, but I promise this will be the last time. This promise is not just for Agnes, but also for herself. At this moment, the man who held Judith long ago also arrives. He says, "Judith, I know what you want to say, but I'm just a paper forger. Everything is up to you to decide." He gives Judith full decision-making power, but also promises to always be by her side to support her, no matter what choice she makes. The trust of her uncle, Brand, and the love for the two children give Judith strength. She is determined to face her past and reclaim what was lost. Back to Alicia at the Rudin residence. She is in an etiquette lesson with Mrs. Rokas when Annie knocks on the door, asking to enter for a matter. So, Mrs. Rokas ends the lesson earlier than planned. Alicia is immediately delighted, but also full of questions. Ending early is nice, but what's going on? The maid, Annie, enters carrying a silver tray. On it is an invitation to the royal investiture ceremony and another letter. Alicia is curious about the mysterious letter. Who is it from, and what does it contain? At the magnificent royal palace, an aide is presenting a letter to the emperor, who is sitting pensively at his desk. "Your Majesty, this is a letter from Grand Duke Tassin." The recipient of the letter is Leonhard Renard Luca, the emperor of the empire. He is a young man with brilliant golden hair and deep blue eyes, but his face exudes the weariness and cold indifference of a monarch. His younger brother, Grand Duke Jacob Tessin, who just presented the letter, sits down and asks, "Did you see the request I sent?" Emperor Leonhard replies wearily, "Yes, I saw it." He looks at the contents of the letter Jacob is writing. "You are requesting reinforcements for the western border. This is quite unexpected, Grand Duke. Don't we have enough soldiers already? You know, Tessin is always short on manpower. The foreign tribes are short on food, so they will inevitably start raiding the villages." Leonhard is firm. Tessin already has many troops. The other nobles will surely protest vehemently. Sending more troops to a Grand Duke who already holds significant military power is an extremely sensitive move. It could upset the balance of power and trigger opposition from other factions. Even the emperor, as the head, cannot decide on his own. The atmosphere has been unusually tense lately. These words from Jacob make the emperor pause. Really? That's Roderick's report. The name Roderick seems to carry a special weight. Emperor Leonhard closes his eyes, considering. The trust in a loyal subordinate is enough for him to make a risky decision. He stamps his approval on the document that "I will approve your request." Raykard bows his head in thanks, but the emperor immediately takes credit. "You should be grateful to me. Do you have any idea how much trouble the nobles will give me for this? I've been struggling for days just to arrange the seating for that damned investiture ceremony. Because of that, Eleonora and I have had to sleep separately for 5 whole days." Raykard casually asks back, "Is the Empress very angry?" The Emperor replies wearily, "It seems Eleonora is also very tired. Since no one in the capital knows Countess Echevarria, there are surely many people trying to dig up information through her. Eleonora, it's all your fault." The Emperor admits with embarrassment, "While we were sleeping separately, I had to work hard to calm her down." After complaining, the Emperor changes the subject, teasing, "How is Countess Echevarria these days?" Raykard knows his brother's intentions well and replies coldly, "She is not a countess yet." "Well, I'm the one who grants the title, so what's the harm in calling her that a little early?" She seems to be adjusting quite well at Rudin. The Emperor is not satisfied with that answer. His voice becomes more serious. "You know very well that's not what I'm asking. When she turns 18, marry her properly." The Emperor recalls what Marquis Lin had said. "Alicia is still young. Your Majesty was the one who said we must wait another 2 years to marry." He smiles in response that "I understand the Marquis's concern about marrying too early. I didn't say you have to marry right now. Let's see, you said she's 17. Thinking of this, the Emperor slaps his thigh enthusiastically and says, "That's right. Getting married at 19, after 2 more years, will be fine." He lays out a seemingly reasonable plan. That way, you two will have time to get closer, and it will also give the Marquis time to mentally prepare to send his precious youngest daughter off to be married. Seeing the Marquis's unpleasant expression, the Emperor gives a faint smile. "Why do you look so unhappy? Don't tell me you're not pleased about becoming in-laws with the royal family." Hearing this, Marquis Lin is a bit taken aback. He then reluctantly forces a smile that of course not. To be granted this opportunity is a great honor for me. But inside, he is seething with indignation. "Then from now on, I'm counting on you, Marquis Lin." After recounting the conversation with the Marquis, the Emperor concludes, Those were just sweet words to win over the Marquis. But Raycard does not agree with this. This is not a lie. He has already decided to make Alicia his lady. The Emperor slams the chair in anger that I didn't expect you to suddenly bestow the title of Echevarria like that. Once the title is granted, even I can annul the engagement. Now, just because you've fallen for a passerby, you intend to ignore everything your brother says? At this, Raycard stands up and looks directly at his brother, his voice full of respect, but no less resolute. She is someone to whom I can entrust all of Echevarria without regret. He hasn't fallen for Alicia in a romantic way. Rather, he sees in her a potential, a much greater value. He warns the Emperor, instead of wasting time like this, perhaps you should worry about handling the rumors spreading throughout the capital. Now there's even a rumor that I carried an axe to kidnap Lady Alicia. The Emperor, hit where it hurts, becomes flustered, isn't it, because you've always had a bad reputation? I specifically told them to spread the news as a legendary romance story. Therefore, Jacob says nothing and just stares at the Emperor for a long time, making him feel guilty and unable to look him in the eye. Then, Jacob says nothing more, just bows his head. I'll take my leave, brother. Before Raycard leaves, the Emperor says one thing, be careful. It's rumored that Lua will rise as soon as the new year begins and winter ends. Raycard just replies coldly, I'll keep that in mind. After Raycard leaves, the Emperor looks up and whispers, what am I to do with you, little brother? At this time, an elderly aide waiting for Raycard in the hall also steps forward, bowing and greeting. Raycard explains, we have received a promise of reinforcements for Tayson. Hearing this, the aide sighs in relief. What a relief that we won't let the young lady witness a chaotic scene this winter. Raycard retorts, young lady? She's only 17, but she was the one who personally wrote to His Majesty and proposed marriage. She's no ordinary 17-year-old girl. He continues, when summer passes and the new year comes, she will turn 18. That is the perfect age for marriage. Didn't His Majesty say so? Hearing this, Raycard stops and frowns, asking, are you a spy planted by the Emperor? The aide just chuckles and continues. But His Majesty didn't just recently want you to marry. That intention has been there for quite some time. He replies coldly, she's only 2 years younger than Lady Josefina. The aide opens his mouth and says, Lady Josefina also just recently got engaged. It is your highness who is the slow one. Hearing this, Raycard can only sigh. He says decisively, I do not intend to marry Lady Alicia. He does not want to turn her into a pawn in a political chess game. Just as he finishes that sentence, a familiar voice calls out, Your Highness. Then Raycard turns around, stunned. The person standing there is none other than Alicia. She happily gives a radiant smile. Long time no see, Your Highness the Grand Duke.